Okay, y'all asked me to watch this, so I did. Okay, and now I will be the first to come on here and say that yes, I had a lot of just like, what's it really giving? What's really going on? Was it too soon? But as a therapist, I had to reflect and see, okay, what's really going on? What's really happening here? So I decided to listen. Okay, now I'm not going to play the whole thing because, YouTube is a little bit strict about that, but we're going to play a little bit, all right?
Guys, I am joined today by a very handsome, a very special guest. And I'm actually very excited to announce that this guest is my fiance.
So we have them come together and do this podcast episode. And though I was a little bit skeptical, because you guys have to realize after watching so many of these shows, how do we know, who is really here for love, for a fiance, for their forever versus clout, to be an influencer, to gain notoriety, and to become somebody who's some kind of, reality TV celebrity. But upon watching this, I did notice a lot of chemistry between them. And sometimes we see people get together and we have to ask myself, okay, they're both attractive. They met on a TV show. Are people put them together? What is the chemistry going to give? All right. And to see them go back and forth, I was like, okay, I'm seeing it. And I saw some things that I want to discuss that I see in them that I don't see in a lot of other couples. And so let's start with, being in a long distance relationship. Now, living in LA, okay, long distance can mean you live in the Valley and I live in Long Beach. Okay, that is considered long distance nowadays. Before it was long distance was you live in different states. But imagine being in a long distance relationship with someone who lives in another country, on another continent. Okay, and one piece that we don't really talk about, or I didn't really think about as they were having this conversation, was the time difference. Not only do they live in two complete separate places, cultures, that plays a big role too. They also have the time difference. So you're trying to build a relationship with a completely opposite time zone and culture with somebody. And to me, I'm like, okay, I missed that part. I wasn't thinking about that and how much of an impact that has on conversations, FaceTime dates, being able to see each other in person, and the cultural aspects of, hey, my culture over here is different from the American culture and how that can also affect our relationship. And he goes on to say just how at times he was more on her Charlotte time zone than he was on his own because he was just so impacted by and enamored by her as a person that he was willing to do whatever to make the relationship work. And now, do they talk a lot about perfect match? No, because obviously they can't talk about it till the show really comes out. So we don't know how things really progress in their relationship. But another key thing to me was that neither one of them were going to go on the show. Okay. He actually had been recruited by Love is Blind and TV shows in general for quite some time, but he always said no. She actually had got recruited for a different TV show before Perfect Match. She was about to go on a different show, but she said something in her told her not to do whatever that show was and to come on to this one instead. And that is how they really met. So I think it's important to think about the time difference, cultural differences, them both being reality TV stars, if you want to say celebrity stars, it's up to you, and how all those things were against them. Okay. Half of y'all won't even drive 30 minutes to see somebody, let alone pay $800, $900 to be on a flight to go see somebody. Pack up your life to spend 3 weeks overseas for that person to come here. What are you willing to do for love, for your forever? And I think the intentionality of this person also showed up, the intentionality of Ollie. And I think he talks about how in America, he got a much bad, worser. Is it worser? He got a bad rep here compared to in the UK. Now, in the UK, people had some things to say about him, but here it was a lot worse. And he comments about the biggest difference was the culture and how people don't understand different jokes, comments, dialects, that they took it as him being a jerk and things like that. But really, maybe we didn't understand cultural things and how they joke and do things over there. It was all not all, a lot of it was taken out of context. Okay. Now, also, he talks about being recruited. He is another person who was recruited by Love is Blind UK. Okay. Now, I don't know how many times I got to tell y'all, the average person is not going to be seen on this show. The average person is not going to be what you see, the middle of America, even though I guess we got that with Love is Blind this season. And look what happened there, y'all. It was boring. It was trash. Okay. But he was actually recruited. And after saying no for so long, he finally said yes to being on the show, but admits that when he went on Love is Blind UK, he didn't have the best intentions. I think he was emotionally detached from going on that show. Like, I'm going to see how it goes. He didn't have the same intentions that he has with AD on that show. Okay. And so he talks about that and processes that it probably didn't work out for him on the UK because he didn't go into it emotionally attached like a lot of people do. I think as a therapist, I see a lot of people going into dating wanting results, being so emotionally attached to the end goal that you lose focus of the present. You lose focus of getting to know the person because you're so focused on what's the goal in your mind. It's to become a girlfriend, a boyfriend, to get a ring, some kind of title, a fiance, a wife, a husband. We focus so much on, when it comes to dating and relationships, being emotionally attached to outcomes. And I think for him, he wasn't. And I think that showed a little bit in the show if you really watch the UK. He's a person to me that doesn't seem like he gets emotionally attached to materialistic things, tangible things. And so in some ways, it leaves room for him to enjoy the present because he's not attached to those kind of things. And he just appeared to be so in love with AD. AD also seems to be very intentional. And she even talks about being in her red flag era. Is that really an era? For some people, y'all never leave that era. Okay. But she talks about that and having her friends, hey, can you watch the show? What do you see from me that maybe I don't see for myself? Because obviously I ignore red flags. Okay. I ignore red flags. So seeing her, just talk about those things and being intentional. I think people forget to be intentional about themselves and about where they are and understand sometimes you do need an outside perspective, an outside, someone who really knows you to see and pick up on things that you can't see sometimes for yourself. And neither one of them have watched each other's shows, which is so funny to me that they have not seen each other on TV. And he talks about, in a very lovingly way, putting her on blast, seeing her on his stories. When they first announced the UK class, she was already trying to see what was going on. Okay. And she didn't know that he had seen her her profile views on his story, which is so funny to me because you see her embarrassment. You see just like the naive innocence of their relationship, the innocence of her. I think we're getting a different perspective than, of course, what we saw on TV. I think we're seeing a different, more like grown, mature, loving herself, knowing what she wants. And I think just being in love with someone who loves her. Okay. We don't really see two people who naturally on TV, naturally, without producers, without all that BS, get to the point of just that natural kind of love. And, another thing I notice about them, as a therapist, is that they have emotional intelligence with each other. There's been a lot of conversations, a lot of dialogue about what we want, what we need, what we are trying to build on, and what we want for the future. And he talks about having those intentional, deep conversations. I think a lot of it was on Perfect Match because you got to think there's no TV, there's no phones. It's just you on a beach, for hours, spending time talking to one another. And then the hours they spent on the phone after the show, getting to know each other, they really poured in. They poured into the foundations of each other, of people. Okay, y'all forget to pour into the person, not what they represent. Okay, so I saw a lot of emotional intelligence there, a lot of let's take the time to get to know one another, to build, to make sure we are both in a place that we want to have our forever. And they both talk about falling in love, her being so surprised with the engagements. He did, get Netflix to help him, but not from a way of being an opportunist, not from I'm trying to get clout, but because he was in another country, he needed help to put together the engagement process. And I think that's a big difference here, the level of effort. When a man wants you, he will. Okay? When a man wants you, he will. He puts together that whole engagement with the help of people here from a whole different country. And there's a lot of people who can't even get a text back. Okay? Who get ghosted after one date, let alone a man being in a whole nother country, you flying over there for 3 weeks, him coming over here for 3 weeks, really putting pride and tension into the seeds of our relationship. You know, what are you pouring into the foundation of the relationships that you are building with people? Are you so focused on the end result, the goals of those relationships that you forget to get to know the person? And then after months, years, you'll wake up one day and you're like, who the F did I marry? Okay, because maybe there wasn't enough time focused on getting to know them, intentionality. Okay, and they talk about what does the future hold? All right, a wedding. They already have a date in mind. They're going to have 2 weddings, one in the UK, one here. And they talk about where they're going to live. See, I was also wondering, okay, you going to go to the UK? Is he going to come here? And let me just say, y'all was right. Nobody is really trying to get a green card to come into America right now. Okay. Some people are, because they want that American dream, whatever that is nowadays, but also want to escape from where they are living. There are places who are still in a spot where people want to escape that. Okay, but that's something else. But yes, and guess where they're moving to? Where does every reality star move to once they're about to come up and make it big? LA. All right. Because I could see that AD is ready for the big time. Okay. I think he's going to be there unconditionally and supporting her. And I would not be surprised if they get a spinoff. If they get a spinoff discussing and documenting them going to their wedding, planning for it, moving, I see it. It only makes sense. This is the first Love is Blind crossover. And I saw them on the reunion. I'm seeing her do her podcast, which she is very proud of, very supportive. And she is it's working, girl. I might not think everybody in a podcast, Mike, but this is working. I think it's going to go somewhere. Every season, these Love is Blind cast members try and come out with their own podcast. And some of it is dry and boring. But I think there's something different here that could really work compared to, what's it called, the Pods with them other 2 girls. Okay. It's going to work over here. I believe it could work with what she's doing. Getting people to come on here from the Love is Blind seasons and talk about their experiences. Okay. I think I could see it. Now, some of y'all might be a little upset because I feel like Cameron and the Love is Blind season 1 couple, they should be in all of the spinoffs, things like that. But for some reason, it just feels like Netflix have pushed them aside and they are moving on. Okay. I do think they should get more praise. They should get more, shows, attention, because they got their own podcast too. But for some reason, I don't know what it is. Netflix, just pays them dust. They really don't care about them. Okay. But the conversation was good. I have a different perspective. I'm glad I watched. I'm glad y'all peer pressured me into watching it. Okay. You should really go over there, check it out. It's called What's the Reality? Look at the views, y'all. It's going to hit. It's going to get bigger and bigger. But let me know your thoughts. Did you watch it? I do think it's real love. I do think that they can make it work. They seem very intentional. They have emotional intelligence. They are invested in people, each other, not just titles, not fame, one another. And that is the key in this situation, is that they took time to really build the foundation, get to know each other, and have intentional conversations in the beginning of their relationship. So many people are not focused on that. They're focused on, in the name, the title, the girlfriend. Let me show off his pictures. But you need to be intentional about your relationships, okay? Y'all happy now? I did it. Hey, y'all happy? Well, I appreciate y'all love. Make sure you support the channel. You like this video. And I will see you in the next one.